this is a quick recap section. Let's see whether we have covered all the keywords prescribed for this chapter or not. So first is configuration management. We discussed tool like GitHub or proprietary version control tool that organization may be following. So we maintain test wires, etc. in configuration management, and we use tools like Zira for defect management, where whole defect life cycle can be observed. A defect report, we discussed about it, a report pertaining to defect in defect management tool. Entry criteria, the bare minimal requirement that needs to be met before we enter into any testing activity phase. Exit criteria, when we conclude that particular activity. Product risks, project risks, what are the possible product risks, project risks we discussed, and risk itself. So basically risk is something which can happen in future, and whenever it happens it has negative consequences. Risk level, there are various levels of the risks, and accordingly our test effort also varies depending upon risk level. Risk based testing, you come up well in advance using one of the techniques to assess the risks, and proportionately you allocate the effort for that risk area. So test approach, we discussed about test approaches, right? One of those strategies that we were talking about. Okay, so one of the test strategy can be used for coming up with testing approach. So and then test control, right? Is something which test manager controls using whenever there is a deviation from a particular while monitoring, if he sees any deviation, he exercises test control. Okay, and then we also discussed about test estimation. Basically we estimate well in advance during planning how much effort may be involved for a particular activity. That is test estimation. Test manager is given the overall responsibility of the testing. Test monitoring is gauging the testing activity. You gauge, or you measure, and then you take appropriate control action if you are test manager. Test plan is a comprehensive document which documents the planning of the testing. Okay. Next is test planning, what we spoke in test plan. Test progress report, how we are faring with respect to testing activity. Test strategy, right? Test strategy, like we discussed, right? It could be analytical, it could be model based, it could be methodical, it could be process compliant, consultative, regression hours, or reactive, right? One of them. Test summary report gives consolidated test execution status, and tester is the most important asset of the organization. So we have covered everything. So that was a quick recap, and it is just to ensure we have covered everything that is prescribed for chapter 5. Let's meet in chapter 6. Thank you.